So we're here, ladies and gents. Oh my days, it's been such a long time. Life, as you can see, I got car seats in the back, so you know I got children, ladies and gents. And yeah, sometimes children just kind of like stop you from doing the things that you used to do before you had them, but it's a blessing in disguise. It's a blessing in disguise. But anyway, we're here, we're back at locals. It's been so long since I did a locals vlog. I'm back on Vanquish Soul. I've got so much to tell you with regards to like what I've been doing, the decks that I've been testing, because I have been doing a lot of testing, a lot of discussions, a lot of conversations around the metagame. And I'm back on Vanquish Soul just because I felt like, you know what, if I'm gonna go into a format where I'm not really too sure about what I should be playing, I should just play a deck that I enjoy. And Vanquish Soul ticks a lot of boxes. I believe it's definitely stronger than Rogue, and with its ability to play Shifter, hopefully it should be in good stead. So let's get this locals on the go, ladies and gents. Catch you in the next one. Peace. Okay, ladies and gents, round one, we are good to go, and we are back playing against Ashen nonetheless. Now, shout out to my good friend Tom, who's actually piloting Ashen. I believe it's the first time he's actually played this deck, which is interesting, and it's the first time I've actually seen it live, and it does have some interesting quirks. I don't know in terms of its strength. I feel like it could just do with one more card, but it does have its own form of interaction, which effectively turns all your monsters into pyro monsters. So Super Poly is definitely a card that will be prominent in this deck, and you've probably seen some of it in the gameplay in the background at the moment. My field gets Super Polyed off. I didn't have the most intimidating field, but I did have the Vanquish Soul Snow Devil set, which that card is absolutely crazy, especially if you can set it up. And 9 times out of 10, if your opponent doesn't have any interaction, it's very easy to facilitate, especially if you've got like a couple of attributes already in hand. It's crazy. Now, I am gonna actually do a separate deck profile, but what I wanted to say was I've drawn inspiration off Steven Santoli, and more so just his theory behind the deck. So what he was saying was he wants to kind of like create a situation where you push through a lot of like interaction, like hand traps, for example, with just the sheer engine cards. Because with Vanquish Soul, you need attributes in hand, and if you're discarding those attributes as hand traps, you're actually negging yourself. And if you're comparing your 1-card starter to a Snake Eye 1-card starter, it's just never really a good matchup. I think Joshua Smith did a video on it recently where he's saying 1-card combos are a problem, where Snake Eye Ash can just generate so much card advantage like in its current form. So I decided to just play less hand traps. I think I'm only playing 6 in the main, no imperm or anything like that, and just play a lot more engine, and it seemed to work out, especially with the introduction of Gravekeeper's Inscription, which I just think is an absolutely crazy card. But I managed to win this first round anyway, went 2-0. Yeah, I managed to play through the board. Snow Devil plus Heavy Borger Burn is just absolutely crazy. Like, this deck never loses in time. If it does, then you're definitely doing something wrong, especially when you've got a 1500 burn at your disposal at any point. So definitely an interesting one. But yeah, on to the next round, ladies and gents. So coming straight into round 2, ladies and gents, I am up against Rescue Ace, and big shout out to Fabs, who's on Rescue Ace. He's been a Rescue Ace fanatic since day one, since the deck got announced early on in the OCG, and he's actually still playing it, which is really cool because it's still a strong deck. I don't understand what the Airlifters limit is doing at the moment. I get it hits the consistency of the deck, but it's a little bit harsh compared to the fact that we've got like Snake Eye Ash in a format. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Played against Rescue Ace, managed to see Shifter, which effectively kind of stunned him out of actually playing the game, to be honest. I had Ash as well, which obviously helped in combination with Shifter. I mean, 2 very strong hand traps, and not being able to like do anything against them is a little bit rough for Rescue Ace, especially as you could potentially normal summon the Turbulence and still manage to set 4, but he just didn't have the means to get there. And then obviously Vanquish Soul along with like Heavy Borger and being able to put bodies on field just meant that it was OTK time on the next turn. So all in all, I managed to take this game 2-0. As you can see from some of the footage, I managed to win out game 2. There was a little bit of a ruling discrepancy that we probably need to clarify. I activated one of the Vanquish Soul, the larger ones, to tag out, and my opponent chained Book of Eclipse. So my field gets booked, and what the discussion was whether or not the bounce back to hand still summons, still goes through. I was arguing that because it loses its target, it shouldn't go through, but then we got it ruled where the fact that it should still go through. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section whether or not that should be a thing, ladies and gents, because I wasn't too sure. We ruled it at the time that it does go through, but I'm not too sure whether or not that should have happened. But neither here nor there, I still managed to play that out and managed to take round number 2 against Rescue Ace. So coming into round 3, ladies and gents, and I'm going to be honest with you, my rounds were over pretty quickly. I think this was potentially the longest game that I had against Centurion, but I found myself just kind of like chatting, talking to friends, looking at trades and that in between rounds, and I just completely forgot to do like a mid-tournament synopsis of like how I was getting on. But anyway, into round 3, played against Centurion. I managed to win this one 2-1. I won game number 1 just because we had just a crazy, like, it was a top deck war basically, and I top decked my starter first after a couple of hand traps back and forth. So a little bit reminiscent of some of the way that the snake eye mirrors are going at the moment. But yeah, I managed to take game 1. Game 2, again, I went into Zeus. I managed to clear some cards off his field, but then he managed to just kind of like top deck a starter. There wasn't much I can do, and he ghost good my Zeus, which was kind of funny. And then game 3, I just set up, I believe I just did my normal setup. I had so much card advantage, it was absolutely crazy. Like the Borga draws, just continuously drawing on your turn is busted, and your opponent's turn. So I managed to just set up and out resource him. And then on top of that, I had a Cosmic Cyclone for the field spell, so it meant that he couldn't like effectively go into some of his synchro monsters on my turn, which helped a lot. And then I realized I was like overplaying for no reason. He didn't have any tuners in the back row, and I was like, hold on, you can't even synchro summon because you don't have any tuners. And he was like, yeah, no. I was like, that's my bad. So a little bit of an oversight for me, which kind of like, it didn't really cost me the game, but it just cost some time basically. And it's just, those are the little nuances that I need to be aware of, obviously, when I'm going to like national tournaments and stuff like that. But I managed to win that one 2-1. So yeah, on to the 4th and final round. So coming into the 4th and final round, I'm up against Branded, ladies and gents, and I will say that this duelist has actually only just come back to the game. He kind of went away for a little bit and he's been playing One Piece, but decided to make a return to Yu-Gi-Oh! And did super duper well, going just like undefeated right into the finals. And unfortunately, he did not have the best of hands in the finals. Game 1, I managed to ash his Branded Fusion, and that was literally all she wrote. And you see me kill through Droll here. Now, this doesn't always happen, but there are certain hands which allow you to do some massive damage, especially if you've got a combination of attributes that allow you to just like facilitate the Borga burn. It just allows you to kind of like just put loads and loads of damage on board, especially if you've got a couple attacks in. And that's one thing about Vanquish that I feel like people kind of like understate or just overlook, is the fact that it can kill very, very quickly depending on how their hand plays out. Like if you get in 2 attacks and you've got heavy Borga on field, like you can actually literally just like pseudo FTK them. But anyway, managed to win game 1, which was a little bit unfortunate for him. Game 2, I believe he bricked on hand traps. He had hand traps for days, and it's interesting to see a build of Branded with loads of hand traps. I mean, he had Ash and Droll in his hand, and it kind of stunted my turn, to be honest, because I had to burn my Core by the Grave and Ash because I was trying to look for a starter off my Prosperity. He did try to Ash it, Core by the Grave, and then he actually dropped the Droll and Lockbird, which was a little bit rough, but it meant that he couldn't play either because he didn't have any starters. I think he top deck a couple of bricks and he just couldn't do anything, to be honest. So I actually proceeded to still search out my Raisin on the following turn. And that just allowed me to just win the game basically. And that was all she wrote, ladies and gents, going XO in what seems to be the return of Vanquish. I'm definitely going to consider this deck for Nats. It's quite highly likely that I take it to Nats, just because I enjoy playing the deck. It's got a few nice quirks, and I like the way that the build's working. With regards to the meta at the moment, that seems to be just like hand traps everywhere, so definitely something to keep in mind, ladies and gents, when you're doing your deck building. There are some builds of decks that you can actually utilize the fact that everybody's playing a lot of hand traps. But anyway, on to the next one. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm back at home. You know who it is by now, Jimothy. And just wanted to say, when XO at locals was actually really good. I wasn't expecting it. It does, like, there's one thing I need to say. If you're unsure about a deck, definitely play a deck that you're more comfortable with. And I really found that out today, especially with my interactions. Just knowing your own deck can make playing so much easier, because you understand the interactions that your deck can do, and if you've got the solid matchup knowledge, you can actually do pretty well. Now granted, I wasn't playing against like a lot of Snake Eye Fire Kings or just Snake Eye basically, but it was a good test against some of the other tier 2 decks that you're definitely going to run into at a tournament. I mean, I played against Centurion. I also played against Branded, which is really popular in the meta, so it's really interesting to see how Vanquish Soul lines up against those decks specifically, because those are some of the decks that are going to be more widely played basically. But it was good to play, and I've been messing about with loads of decks. I mean, in the last like month and a half, I've probably tested Raid Raptors, Kashtira, Melodious, just loads and loads. I tested Tempai. Tempai was a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest. It didn't pan out the way that I felt like it would. It was quite frustrating to play, in my opinion. Obviously, there's been lots of people with lots of success with Tempai, and I actually got second place in a couple of local tournaments quite a few times, but I just didn't like the way that the deck played. It was really, I found it frustrating throwing hand traps at my opponent and then hoping that the one card that I've got left in hand resolves, and that was the kind of issue that I was having when I was playing Raid Raptors as well. Just throwing loads and loads of hand traps at my opponent and then hoping to be able to just combo and not actually get hand trapped myself, which is, it just doesn't happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Your opponent's gonna have some form of interaction, and you're so fragile when you're down cards. It's unbelievable. So that's kind of what turned me off Tempai, as well as Raid Raptors, to be honest. And yeah, I feel like with the new support, Tempai might be a little bit better, but at the moment I'm not gonna play that deck just yet. But Vanquish Soul is definitely a deck I'm comfortable with. Definitely better than Rogue. I had this conversation with somebody before, and I was saying, listen, Vanquish Soul is stronger than Rogue. It can play Shifter, and it's got a win condition without Shifter. Yes, Shifter is just a game-ending card, but Vanquish Soul have always had the ability to play without it. It's only since more recently that people have been taking it in. Vanquish Soul can actually play under Shifter. But what's more notable, in my opinion, is Gravekeeper's Inscription. That card is actually really strong, and it's caught a few people off guard as well. Especially the Branded player that I used it against didn't really know how to navigate it because of the way that Branded operates throughout its graveyard. It was just absolutely busted. But all in all, ladies and gents, I'm happy. I'm probably going to be testing this deck for the next couple of weeks, seeing if I can refine it, and then hopefully head to Nats and do better than I did last year, which was not the best showing. I actually dropped, but yeah, that's a story for another video. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you did enjoy this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I would definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.